Let's talk about the axolotl. It's a creature that honestly looks like it walked straight out of a myth, but it's very, very real. It's this incredible mix of biological marvel, cultural icon, and scientific superstar. But, and this is a big but, this amazing animal is facing a silent crisis. Its whole story is a wild paradox of being super resilient and incredibly fragile, and it's a story we really need to understand before it's too late.
Okay, so first, let's talk about its superpower. And I mean a real superpower. We're not just talking about regrowing a lost tail here. The axolotl can regenerate entire limbs perfectly. It can fix a damaged spinal cord, but what's absolutely mind-boggling is that it can mend its own heart and even restore sections of its brain. It's literally a real-life superhero with abilities that we can only dream of.
And here's the massive twist in the story. For all of its incredible, almost unbelievable resilience, the axolotl is critically endangered. In the wild, it is on the absolute brink of extinction. And that's the great paradox here. An animal that can rebuild itself from a catastrophic injury is being completely wiped out by us.
To really get this creature, we have to go back in time. I mean, way back, to the Aztec Empire, where the axolotl wasn't just another animal. It was a legend.
So its name, axolotl, that comes from the ancient Nahuatl language. It translates to water monster, or sometimes you'll see water servant. But what's really cool is just how deep that name goes into mythology.
So the Aztec myth goes like this. The god Xolotl, who was the twin of the powerful god Quetzalcoatl, was supposed to be sacrificed. To get away, he transformed himself into a bunch of different things, and his final form, you guessed it, was an axolotl, hiding out in the lakes. And that one act forever tied this little animal to the divine. So you have this fascinating split personality in the culture. On one hand, the axolotl was sacred, the physical form of a god. But on the other hand, it was also a really practical and nutritious food source, a staple that came from the very same lakes it was worshipped in. It just shows you how deeply woven it was into every part of life.
So what gives the axolotl that unique, almost magical look? Well, the answer is this amazing biological quirk that basically makes it the Peter Pan of the animal kingdom. It just never really grows up.
The official term for this is neoteny, and all that means is that it holds on to its juvenile or larval features its entire adult life. It reaches maturity, but it never goes through that big change or metamorphosis. So in a way, it stays in its baby form forever.
Now let's compare that to a typical salamander. It starts as an egg, becomes an aquatic larva, then bam, it goes through metamorphosis and becomes a land-dwelling adult. The axolotl, on the other hand, just hits a giant pause button on its development. It skips metamorphosis completely, so it stays in the water and keeps all those youthful looks.
And those features are exactly what gives it that otherworldly vibe. You know those beautiful feathery gills that branch off its head? Those are its main way of breathing. It keeps those and its tadpole-like fin for its entire 10 to 15-year life.
So how did this animal that basically refuses to grow up become one of the most important creatures in all of modern science? Well, its journey into the lab really started back in the 1860s. Live axolotls were shipped to Paris, and scientists there were just instantly captivated. The descendants of those Parisian axolotls actually became the foundation for most lab populations around the world. Fast forward a century, scientists crossbred them with tiger salamanders to keep the genetics healthy. And just recently, we sequenced its entire genome. And get this, it's a whopping 10 times bigger than our own. And what have we learned from studying it? That its abilities are nothing short of incredible. It's a complete master of regeneration. It grows back entire limbs flawlessly, repairs its spinal cord, mends its own heart, and can even restore parts of its brain. And a lot of scientists think the secret ingredient is that whole never growing up thing. Its neoteny seems to keep its cells in this youthful, super adaptable state, which lets it rebuild itself in ways that could hold massive clues for human medicine.
So yeah, you could say the axolotl went from being a biological curiosity to an absolute cornerstone of research. From those early Parisian fish tanks to labs all over the globe, it became science's most charming test subject. And it's helping us tackle some of the biggest questions in everything from tissue regeneration and biology to even cancer research.
And this is where we get to the heart of the axolotl's tragic story. We have a creature that is thriving in labs and aquariums all over the world, but it's disappearing from the one and only place it is ever called home.
Just look at this contrast. On the left, you've got that pale, almost pink axolotl that's so common as a pet.
But on the right, that's the camouflage modeled wild-type axolotl. There are hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions of them in captivity. But out there in the wild, the picture is desperately, desperately different. This number is just staggering. Scientists estimate that there might be fewer than 1,000 adult axolotls left in the wild. Some surveys say that number could even be as low as 50. 50. Let that sink in for a minute. A species that's been around for millions of years is down to a handful of individuals.
So what happened? How did it get this bad? Well, the axolotl is facing a triple threat. First, the relentless urban sprawl from nearby Mexico City has just wrecked its habitat. Second, the water that's left is severely polluted. And to top it all off, invasive fish like carp and tilapia, which were introduced for food, are now preying on young axolotls and stealing their resources.
Okay, so the situation is dire, I know, but it's not hopeless. So what's being done to pull this living marvel back from the absolute brink?
This is it. This is the place. The canals of Lake Xochimilco, right on the southern edge of Mexico City. This beautiful, fragile, ancient network of waterways is the last wild refuge for the axolotl on the entire planet. It's really simple. Saving the axolotl means saving this place.
And there is a plan. A whole partnership of Mexican and international groups is working to turn the tide. It's a strategy with a lot of parts. Turning the axolotl into a star for nature tourism to get local people involved, creating a formal species and habitat action plan, and, this is crucial, doing the hard science to figure out and neutralize all the threats before they can even think about reintroducing them.
You know, the story of the axolotl is such a powerful reminder. It's this living link to an ancient culture, and at the same time, it's a potential key to our medical future. But its survival now depends completely on our willingness to protect its very fragile home. So the final question for all of us is, can we act in time?